A very good morning and a warm welcome to this week's edition of The Dialogue. My name is Sima Polo and the panel is set to take you through the big stories of the week and put those matters of national importance into context. Welcome aboard and in the studios this morning, Dr. Gerard Wanzara, a man from Namisindwa, is already in his seat, and Richard Baguma, a communication expert, already in the studios, and a special guest this morning is Beka Bate, senior journalist working with Uganda Radio Network. But before we kick off the show, we are concluding a very busy week in which His Excellency the President, as the head of state, delivered the State of the Nation address, and of course we also had Heroes Day celebrated in Ruwero district, which happens to be the maker of the NRM government, which is in power. But of course, we started off this week with sad news of the passing of one of the popular comedians, politicians, and of course, songwriter and artist, Paul Katolubama, formerly the Member of Parliament for Rubaga South. We commiserate with the family, the country, the art industry, and all those who knew Katolubama. May his soul rest. Well, but of course, one highlight of the week is the President taking leave of work, and it's all because he contracted COVID-19. One individual who has been well known for being cautious about COVID-19, but as we speak, he is in Nakasero State House, taking leave because he has been confirmed to have the COVID-19 virus. Let me let Dr. Gerard Wanzara kick off the show by speaking to our viewers.
Good morning, our viewers. As you hear, my voice is also not well, but I believe I don't have COVID. And of course, I wish the president quick recovery, but what I know is working remotely since we saw his condition was not very threatening. At least he has an opportunity to reflect on so many things, including reading so many intelligence reports and a lot that's going on. So we are happy to always be here with our viewers and this opportunity. Of course, I also commiserate with the family of the late Honorable Katolubama. He was one of my best entertainers in this country. Him together with Mr. Charles Senkubuge. Siasa. I used to enjoy what they do on stage. May his soul rest in peace. In the parliament, I got the opportunity to get close to him when he was an MP. At that time, I was a candidate for Iala. And I knew him for spending a lot of time in the canteen and making his friends, laugh, and he never hid his appetite for the traditional food, mulokonyi, what. So I remember he was quite a jolly guy who never hid about what he likes and what he doesn't like.
Well, Richard, can you speak to our viewers?
Good morning. I always start with acknowledging the very, very...
And welcome back from that sabbatical.
Thank you. That was very refreshing. We
missed you.
I missed the show, but I was following. And I have never had the former first son, Waswarule. Speak with that strength of voice and passion. That was the first time I have seen him, I've heard him. He's always very few words and very low voice. You brought him out up on that. So that's sure. I always, of course, start with acknowledging the immense power of God, but also the extreme grace that he has for us, that we are here, that we come every day. So good morning, viewers. Thank you for always
and then how was Addis?
Addis has settled. the hot conflict is no longer on the people's lips. The destruction in Tigray.
So the war
was quite
ended.
Yeah, but you see, there's always some low conflict in Tigray and Oromia. So, but these are things that don't come out. People don't realize that there has been war really in Ethiopia has never completely stopped. No. There's always some group conflicting, and it came to the fore when we were evacuating our people from South Sudan, from Sudan, because then going through the conflict regions. That's is an interesting story. But the city is clear. If you look at construction, the construction is enormous, immense, and very fast.
Wow.
There are very many tall buildings coming up. So there has to be some money in the economy.
Yeah.
They are struggling with the dam, of course, because of the international politics. But otherwise, it's very nice. I thank the viewers
Welcome
for
back
being with us, of course, and my panelists, my fellow panelists. Well, he has been, of course, holding the show.
Yeah.
I was watching him. And then, today, who do I come to is Baker. Now, you know, we talked about, I also am with Baker on another show somewhere. Now, unfortunately, I don't know which one is here with me, is following me.
Welcome back.
Yesterday, we were listening to another show on another radio station, and somebody asked me, is Baker related to Imam Kasozi? They speak the same. And I said, I've never asked Baker. Baker, nice to see you here.
Wow. Welcome back, Richard. Baker, you're most welcome, and we are pleased to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you. This is my, third time? You normally invite me, but Kampala is such a busy place that sometimes the hustles and bustles of Kampala stop us from literally appear as of when you want us to appear, but nonetheless we're here. I'm also happy to see Richard here. I normally identify almost 100% with his submissions. He has my mind. Wow. So when he's here, really, even if I don't appear anywhere, he speaks for me.
Really?
Yes, but I want to say something about Katorubama. Maybe it's not the subject of our discussion today, but just one thing. I grew up, many of us who grew up in the 90s, we are children of the revolution. So we grew up listening to Kaliso Liso in the morning, every morning when you are leaving for school. It's what sends you off to school. You know that time has gone, you're about to get late, you hear that jingle for Kaliso Liso. And then the other drama he had on television. But as a politician, I want Kato for one thing. I remember him for one thing. In Uganda, he's the only politician who speaks the truth.
Oh.
Yes.
I hope you're not referring to the statement he made when he was kicking off his campaigns for Rubaga House, a member of parliament, when he honestly said, people, let me go and eat.
What do they go there to eat, to do in parliament? Those ones who are there. I was speaking to a member of parliament, a friend of mine, and told me that parliament is run not more than 50 people. And you were a parliamentary reporter, you know that for a fact. Not more than 50 people are doing work, parliamentary work in parliament there. You have people who, on the Hansard, they finish the entire 5 years when their name doesn't appear on the Hansard, unless when they are being called, when there are these votes of putting up your hand, of where you have to vote, individually. That is when you find their name. But every 5 years, they go back to the constituents and say, send me back. Yet they have not said a single word. A friend of mine was telling me, a member of parliament, that there are people who actually like to speak. People like John Ken Luchams. He would really enjoy, you would see him enjoy himself. People like Ben Wacha. They are members of parliament, but you see them actually enjoying what they are doing. But there are others, the only reason they are there, and that is the biggest majority, like 98%. The only reason they are in that parliament is because they give money in that parliament. If it was for free, if there were no money there, it would be people like me and
so you like him for that honesty? Yes,
the person who would stand and say that legislation is not what I'm going for. I am going there to eat, because everybody is there to eat. So Katorubama, in the middle of this election in 2016, said, they asked him, I had him on the radio show, and he said, whom do you support? He said, whom else can I support? I support Bobi Wine. Why? Not because I believe in him. I don't believe he's a person who should stand for president. But he's the one with the electricity. If I don't support him, it is what the people want. There are a few people who can say that in the middle of an election. You get? Bobi Wine, of course, without doubt, is a popular person. But it's only Katorwa, man. I know MP in the NUP who hate Bobi Wine with a passion.
Really?
Yes, they are members of his own party.
That's being opportunistic
and because the person who has been a DP up to 5 p.m. and the following morning at nomination is NUP. Really, what kind of a person is that? You believe that they believe in NUP? So, but Katorwa must stood his ground. It doesn't matter how big the wave was. He knew it would take him. I saw a clip where they asked him, what will you remember the people of Luaga for? Nothing.
Wow.
What will they remember you for? Nothing. So that is a kind of a politician who is very rare in our country. They asked him, the last thing I want to say. I saw a clip where they asked him, he said, there are 3 ways of becoming rich in Uganda. One, production. Production meaning
either you work hard.
You have production, you have a factory that produces what and what. Then 2, service delivery, like we are giving a service now. And 3, which they will not tell you and write anywhere, safety.
Oh.
So people in Uganda are rich because of stealing, but nobody.
Thank you so much.
I think we will miss Katorwa for that. He says it as it is, like it or hate it, but that is what
we will definitely miss Katorwa, and we say may his soul rest in peace. And let's quickly go through the big stories in the week. And according to me, I'll just pick 1, 2, 3, and we make a comment and move on. Richard, it goes to you directly because you mentioned about the war in Tigray and in Ethiopia and elsewhere. This week, the African leaders made a statement, and it's a resolution. Actually, it came out as a resolution in their meeting, chaired by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, that they are going to push for a peace resolution in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and they are actually planning to travel to Russia and both to Ukraine and meet the leaders, and possibly bring them to a negotiating table. What do you make of that? Because even His Excellency the President, who was in that meeting, also issued a statement, and he said, according to him, he says they must take this Pan-African peace agenda to Europe, because it has worked here, and they believe it will even work in this conflict in Europe. Just a comment, and we'll move on.
Okay. You make it difficult for me when you say I just give a comment and move on. You see, there are a couple of aspects to it. One is that it is important for the world that the conflict over Ukraine gets settled. It is important. It is costing the world too much. But there are also those who are benefiting from the conflict. So who wouldn't want it to end? The industrial military complex, I think, really has had opportunity to try out their equipment, to prove the concepts of the newer technologies, war technologies. And you see, there is nothing better at marketing than trying and showing the concept in the real theater. So that those guys wouldn't want this conflict to stop very quickly, because you see, even the countries which were not committing big budgets to the military-industrial complex, the Swedens, the Finlands, they are now all putting their money. And these guys are smiling all the way to the bank. So that's one of the complexities. The second one is that the African leaders, including my own president, they were told not to fly to Libya. Yes, they were, okay, if any one of you is strong, come to Libya.
When NATO invaded Libya.
So it's a commendable comedy also. It's commendable comedy.
You call it comedy?
I think it's commendable comedy that they are saying they are going to intervene in Ukraine. It's commendable, yes, because they have to say and do something, but they also have to show that this thing of tearing at each other is not just an African thing. It's their opportunity to just say, but it's comic because
you don't believe
what influence?
You don't believe this effort
what
may yield
what
results.
Power are they using?
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Jared, you're smiling, and I would want you also to make a comment, well knowing that I think it's this week or last week. There's some developments in the BRICS formation, and they are trying also to take a serious stance, which looks to be against the forces that are in Ukraine. I don't know if you can link up those two stories.
First, let me begin with this, commenting on the role that Africa can play in Ukraine to end the war. Of course, he called it commendable comedy. I would describe it in a similar manner, because I know that the impact of what we are going to do is not going to be there. However, 2 years ago, our head of state, together with the Denis Sassou Nguesso, there were a number of elder statesmen of Africa who came up with something called Africa Security Foundation. And as I speak, the Honorable Amama Mbabazi is the one coordinating it across Africa. I think the thinking was that if we sit back every time on all these matters to do with the security, global influence, we shall be left behind. This includes in championing for having a permanent seat once for Africa at the UN. So it may not achieve anything, but for political purposes, to say that, okay, Africa, now we are also asserting ourselves. It is an opportunity that if they see our leaders, a delegation, the world sees a delegation in Moscow, and the delegation in Kiev, say, oh, at least they are also, but it's not going to have any impact. As you know, US and Russia have been adversaries for quite a long time. And I think Russia only went underground when economically things were bad. And now Putin presided over the growth of the economy, expansion of the economy, and they thought this is the time to put his foot down and say, you have to stop here. But the West is also seeing an opportunity to test, see what strength does Russia still have. These sanctions, can they work? You know, eventually their goal is to humble Russia, which I know is going to be very difficult, but I don't see this war ending soon. And this war may only go back to discussions when I think the West thinks they have put Kiev at a certain level to be in a strong position of negotiation. But as it is now, with Russia capturing all that land belonging to Ukraine, I don't see this war ending now. You saw how many leaders in the world visited Moscow and Kiev before the war broke out. We saw Brazil, we saw China, we saw all of them. They were there. What happened? So is it our leaders who are going to change this now? No, it's not going to happen. Now, the other was about...
No, I was saying with the developments in the BRICS, the BRICS formation, and which actually we see African leaders, like South Africa has that big position in the BRICS formation. Don't you think somehow, if they are talking about peaceful resolution of this conflict, they can possibly use use that formation of the BRICS and possibly make a stance?
BRICS as an economic bloc is okay, is quite influential. If you get Brazil, the biggest in South America, you get South Africa, which is the second biggest in Africa. Of course, they say Nigeria is the biggest, but I know South Africa, you know, is more placed up there globally than Nigeria because of the reasons you know. And if you look at India, then look at China, the economies are quite big. However, I look at the individual states, apart from the word BRICS as it is. You look at Brazil. Brazil is a very influential partner of the US in very many aspects. So I don't think they would like to take a decision that alters that relationship just because they belong to the BRICS. If you look at India, India's economy has been so much dependent on the West, including trainings, and so there's very, technological development. So they are intertwined. With China, they are neighbors, they are trying to do business, but they have a problem with the borders, with the mistrust, because of the different systems, democracy versus the one-party system, the other side. Those are always there, those tensions. And then, of course, our South Africa individually, I would say it's weak. South Africa has been going down, if you observe, because of instabilities, xenophobia. The economy has been growing at less than 1%. So
well, I brought
the
in
BRICS.
Yeah, I brought in this issue of the BRICS because it includes big powers like China, like India, like Russia, and if they have a formation where they sit on the same table with South Africa, possibly another big power in Africa, I thought maybe that could be the basis for this decision to mediate in the Russian.
No, you see the way the world is already intimidating South Africa. If Putin comes, you arrest him. Because South Africa is a member of the Rome Statute. Anyway, so I am not going to see BRICS, influencing anything even through South Africa to be impactful.
But you think African leaders can mediate in this Russian-Ukraine war?
Yesterday somebody showed me a clip where the president, I don't know whether he was or in Kololo, I think he was in Kololo, where he was saying he was in a room with the former Prime Minister Apollo Nsibambi, with a very rich American whose income is more than the income of East Africa, all East African countries combined. So Museveni was trying to convince him to come and invest in Uganda. So Apollo Nsibambi told him, let him write for me what he wants to come and do. So Museveni says he told Nsibambi in Uganda, oyo musajja tajja kukuwandiikira.
Actually, they mentioned it in Kololo.
Yes, he was. Oyo musajja tajja kukuwandiikira gwe. You know why he would not try? Even Museveni recognizes that the position of Nsibambi, a rich man like that cannot allow you. I mean, he cannot entertain Ria Rainbow. I write, who are you? I want to extrapolate
so
that.
Asking who are African
who are they really to say that they can do it? Because we are in a world of who is who and who are you?
But Africa, can these big powers now sideline Africa really?
No, Africa doesn't. Africa doesn't. Where does it appear?
Where
is Africa?
Why are they rushing to Africa?
To do what?
For economics and for trade and economics?
No. There is no one rushing here. Of course, you can say that, but you see, we are looking at. Sometimes actually you invite them here yourself without them even doing anything. But let me say this. I think for me, these African leaders, we are looking at bigger issues. Not small matters. So because this war...
What are small matters?
These matters of yours, so we are looking at...
We are substantial... Did you call it
commendable?
Commendable.
Really, we are looking at serious issues. If Africans, for example, had a veto in the Security Council, maybe. But even if the whole of the entire Africa doesn't vote and by the way, major issues are not decided by the entire board of the UN. It's not by the entire board of the UN. No, it is decided. Major issues that determine in international security are determined by the Security Council, where Africa doesn't sit. Even if we sit there, but we are not permanent members, even if we have a position and our representatives in the Security Council take a stand, that stand is useless if the 5 members decide otherwise. So really, it is just, you look at the people who are on the call. Yoweri Museveni, we are looking at good governance. We are looking at people who are trying to bring peace to...
Even the AU chair was there, even...
maybe Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
Maybe yes. But you see, I think for me, the BRICS pose a bigger threat than the rest of Africa combined. Because the BRICS, when you add between those two countries, they have almost half of the world's population. And
India, China,
Russia. They have almost half of the world's the population. When you look at their economy, China's economy now is projected. Actually, they say it is bigger than, when you look at, depending on how you look at how you arrive at the economy, the computation, China's economy is bigger than that of the United States. For every 10 say Apple commodities produced in the world, 7 are produced in China. So China is really strategic in terms of it is privileging its population, including India. India will overtake China this year as the world's biggest population. But China, it is the world's workshop. Everything you think about, it has a workshop in China. So it's strategic. Therefore, if China says something, the United States can listen. But even if the entire EU comes up with the resolution, really, if they fail to listen in Libya, where Libya was part of Africa, you get. If they fail to listen to the Africans in Libya, why would they listen to them in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine? So for as long as if China, because this Ukraine and Russian war, it is not really a Ukraine and Russian war. It is a war between Russia and the West. So until the West runs out of steam, that war will continue. It doesn't matter what our Museveni says. What he says is synonymous. It is like what his friend Apollon Swambi was saying. What Museveni and the rest of you are saying is what Apollon Swambi was trying to tell the American billionaire.
I have wanted to wait and see what happens, but well, they made their statement. They are saying this. Give us a chance, we can mediate in this conflict. And Doctor, I saw,
but do you know,
even BRICS, this week I saw a report,
do you know
that BRICS is now attracting Arab countries also to join, and they're also planning actually to come up with a currency that would compete with the dollar. As I think they have big dreams, and which could be actually good for us in Africa and those other countries that have been.
But just a small thing before we take leave of this. These African leaders were telling about the African solution. We have a conflict in like 5 countries in Africa now, where governments have been overthrown and they are in conflict.
Sudan.
You have Sudan, you have Niger, you have Chad, you have Guinea, you have Burkina Faso. All of those they have never found a solution for. Why would they find a solution for Ukraine? We have Congo here.
Okay. Well, let's wait. But I think let's believe in our leaders. They may do a miracle. Gentlemen, quickly let's look at the health condition of our president. Well, he communicated it, and he's now into forced leave because of COVID-19. I don't know what you make of because General Museveni has been very, very cautious. If at all I may say, he has been, from the beginning, he has been very cautious about preventive measures against COVID-19. And you wonder how all of a sudden, when COVID-19 is no longer, according to the WHO, is no longer a public health threat, he declares he has COVID.
First of all, for the benefit of the viewers, the World Health Organization declared that COVID is no longer a global emergency. And therefore, getting COVID is not any news now. Maybe it is news because our president has been, you know that we have been spending a lot of money. Every time you go in a meeting where the president is, our president is, you had to undergo COVID test, whether in Kololo, whether in State House, any event around the country where he was. It didn't matter whether you are sitting how many meters away, but you had to undergo COVID, and then you are screened by security to go. So now it raises the question: was the COVID? Were people in the household who had the COVID? So let me stop there. I don't know. But then I saw the president when he was speaking in Kololo. Yes, he had the flu, but to me it was very strong. And like any other human being, when you overwork, he has been all around, you know, PDM and so. So I believe he needed the rest. But then there is a way some people have missed. On social media, I said forced leave. But when I saw his communication, like delegating the Honorable Nabanja, he said, I will delegate her to represent me on Heroes Day. Just like the vice president is also representing him, I think in Angola. I saw her in Burundi, I think in Angola, and so forth. So delegating duty for a manager, you know, is okay. But I believe that the president is working remotely. There is a lot on his desk. Committees of parliament expired. They are reconstituting, and you know, when you come in the middle of the term, there's a lot at stake. You have to be strategic. The next 2 years, who are you deploying? The committee of these secretarial committees and so forth.
I think those are works of whips. And
yes, but they don't do without consulting his office. People think that the president even appoints Sarah. The ministers do, but he takes and screens. He reads intelligence reports. Okay. If there are security problems, there's a minister who was censured. You know, there are issues. You know, we know that a reshuffle is coming. The people are in court. You know, and the public is asking, why are these people in court? And they are still representing the president. So as a head of state, I think he's going to reflect on a number of things. I believe that...
So you think he needed a leave anyway?
It is not even a leave. He's working. I believe he's working. He's taking the vitamins like Twine told us, the PS, taking a number. She said he needs some vitamin D, vitamin. So he's taking...
When he states in his statement that that it seems the jabs did work, and he recommends especially the elderly to take boosters and everyone to go for vaccination. Doesn't that again rings in your mind that possibly
it could also
he will come out with this?
You see, we had ambitions. No,
directives.
I don't expect those stringent directives again in the country. The world opened, the economy is recovering. I don't expect that. But I know that the president was a big campaign of these vaccines, and we had ambitions, including setting up facilities to begin producing these vaccines, you know, for the future and things like that. Probably he may also be driving towards a possibility of investing in that, vaccines. But whether it will be viable, that's a question for another day, because if the problem has gone down, maybe we look at other research in other areas, not necessarily COVID. But I know that this country procured vaccines and are stuck with millions and millions of vaccines, which now people don't need.
Okay, Richard, a section of Ugandans were worried, and actually still worried, that the president may come up with strict directives on COVID vaccinations and testing. And actually, you will also bring in the issue of the opposition. The opposition were not comfortable. Actually, they made it clear they refused to attend the State of the Nation address because of those COVID tests. COVID tests everywhere. Whenever there is a meeting where the president will attend, or a congregation, you have to take COVID tests. What do you expect from the leave if he comes back from that leave?
I expect that the cabinet will be reshuffled, and the Muhoozi group, like I have already said, will have higher influence. I expect that there are also going to be a few more. There have been reshuffles already in the army, with strengthening of the Muhoozi group, the ones who joined with him or who have been SFC to almost all the command positions. I think we'll see a few of those. Or there have been movements, of course, in the police command, as you can see. I think when you move from the IGP, who is the traditional police officer, the next maybe 5-6 people below the IGP of any substance, the deputy, the joint chief of staff, the head of human resource, the head of crime intelligence, the head of their all military people. So I think we are going to see that increase, the director of CID, the all. I expect that there will also be some movements from this leave in the intelligence services. Again, we will see people positioned. The MK project group, you are going to see what is going to happen. I have predicted that, and I already tell you, Apollo played the other video which I predicted, tell me the things that are not happening. And then maybe I will go and revise my analysis. I don't see any fundamental happenings in the COVID area, no, except if there's a project that has money on it, that it's going to be moved there. But otherwise, I don't see any. I think for me to see this president saying he has COVID, and you don't realize that it's part of his vigilance, I think for me it would be a wrong lens. Because here he has been coughing, I had a sore throat the other day, none of us checked. So probably we actually had the COVID. Because we have been in crowds, we have been, and by the way, we misread the statement of the World Health Organization. It says it is no longer
a global
emergency, but it is still prevalent and we still be very careful. That's what they said. Even now, the head of the Virus Research Institute was saying there is increase. Our health people, you have warned us officially
about flu and
that there is an increase in COVID infections, but what is that percentage they use to say the spread has not reached the threshold of 5%, which then becomes public concern. But there is observable increase. In fact, I told you when I was here the other time that I knew 2 people personally who were admitted in Mulago in the intensive, in the dependence, something high dependence unit because of COVID.
So
I knew. So it is because of his vigilance that for him, when he feels the flu, he tests. For us, when we have a flu and a cough, we continue. So if you don't see the vigilance and relate it, I think the lenses are not correct. There may be additional, because the President Museveni is not a person who has been talking about his health, whatever the challenges.
True.
Now that he has come out to say, what are the other strategic considerations that are in his mind? I think for him a retreat was necessary, and the list is being completed. The timing,
so you think
they will do the timing.
The leave, the COVID,
it's a working
leave
leave.
is
a working
timely.
Leave. Yes, have my peace. Because Chankwanzi was definited, and that's always happened. Chankwanzi is usually the last stage of making decisions on in that nature. One of the most important, for example, things that came out of Chankwanzi, because I was not here to talk about it, was the ring fencing of private members' bills. I think it was the most momentous decision they made. Because you see now, we were having legislation, any of us activists, we're having legislation come through because we have private members bringing the bills. Now they have said, no, you must first bring it to the caucus. That's where it's either muzzled or weakened. So I don't know why people didn't even think about it. It's like the laws which he signed. We all went for the homosexuality bill.
But there are very many.
But one very extremely, I think for me, dangerous law was the other one, the one which was not the one of businesses. There was another
one of organ,
the one of organ
donation and transplant.
Yes.
Organ donation and transplant.
And none of us have talked about it. We don't know what it means. We don't know. In this time of organ sale, illegal organ and whatever, I think we need to examine a lot of those things.
Thank you. Baker, but what do you make of this leave and the president coming out openly, about his health condition? For the first time, I think.
I think for me there is nothing to worry about the president's health. But COVID, we've lived with COVID, and I know the president will come through with it. There is nothing for anyone to worry about. Simply, Richard here is talking about the vigilance, but I don't know how much do they need now to test COVID, 100,000? People who are struggling to have what to eat, how do they get 100,000 to go and check whether they have COVID or not? So, but the president can afford it to, because we pay him, we pay a whole unit of people who look after his health. We've been spending billions. Mpoga the other day was saying, is it 3 billion?
3 billion.
Yeah, every time you have a function like that. So this week,
Parliament has a function.
yes, we would have spent actually more than that, because now it was going to Heroes Day, which will have almost a similar number, actually if more, not more than the number you have at Kololo. Maybe we would have spent about another 4 or 5 billion. We would have spent 8 billion on trying to ensure that the president is okay. And COVID, I think we've been here, and he's just been the last person to go through what all of us have gone through, and I don't think there is anything to worry about. For me, the only good thing that came out of this whole COVID thing was the semblance of what it feels like to have somebody else in charge, even if artificially. I saw the Right Honorable Robin Anabanja in charge in Kakumiro when the security, it was when the attention was not Museveni, when the attention was on somebody else. And I said, oh, this is what we've been missing all along. How does Museveni sit at home and watch things that when he's not the one in charge, when there is somebody else is in charge? Doesn't he get him inspiration from what he saw in Kakumiro? I mean, in Duel.
I think the Right Honorable Robin Aband also presided over Heroes Day celebrations at Kololo last year.
Yeah, but I don't think last time when he did, he was given a presidential treat. Because yesterday I saw people were manning the security, were SFC, you saw people, the way they were guarding her, SFC.
This time she was acting president.
Yes. So, and this is what they've been telling Museveni, can you sit home and relax and you see somebody else is in charge? It is actually refreshing to sit and see somebody else doing the things you are doing. Are you not enjoying, Mr. President, what is happening?
So you suspect, okay, you believe he must have been enjoying the moment.
He should enjoy it. I'm not sure he enjoys it. I think he curses that. He doesn't, he has never fathomed the idea that he can be there and he's seated back and somebody else is in charge. But he should.
Does his decision, I mean, tell you something possibly?
No,
that the time may come.
No, there is no time that is going to come when Museveni sits back and somebody else takes charge. Museveni, you can take to the bank, you can record this, and there is no way that you are going to have another president when you have life still flowing in the vein. I mean, blood still flowing in the veins of Yoweri Museveni. The only reason he's not going to be president is when he's not alive, or when he's so aged, he's like 120 years, and really he has the mental faculties have failed him. But if he is still the Museveni we are having now, the man who is already on the campaign trail, you think these things of policy development is because he wants you to get out of poverty? No, he's not executing anything. He's executing his being president after 2026. That is what he's doing. He's campaigning. So he would not go through all this trouble to campaign, because this is what he does. We've been here around here for some time. So a man who is doing the campaigning, he's not the man you would say, and I really laugh at people who are saying that we have him host in 2026. Please, don't bring the young man problems, because Yoweri Museveni, Kaguta, Tibuhabrah, he added his name, Tibuhabrah, in this. You think it was for a joke? He had the reason why he added that name there. He is going to be here in 2026 moving ahead.
Dr. Jared Wanzala, I am prompted to, ask you to give us a comment on the same matter. Do you think this gesture, the president ceding this role to the prime minister can mean anything?
For me, I will not address it directly, but I will go back a bit. When the president appointed the cabinet this time round after 2021 elections, and then we looked at the lineup from himself, the vice president, right now is the speaker, look at the Prime Minister and then the Deputy Prime Ministers, he chose only ladies. But when he chose the ladies, some people are saying probably he doesn't want certain men in the limelight who will want to steal the show, who are ambitious, who want to the president. Exactly, the Mnangagwa type, that you are vice president of Mugabe and you're also interested in the seat. So for me, I think he enjoyed, because yesterday, for instance, I don't think the Honorable Nabanja is anywhere interested in becoming president. So if you have a lineup like that, why can't you stay in Nakasera and you smile? Yes.
I read his statement, the president, the most recent, and he said, I had a sound sleep. He slept soundly. And you can pick up from there, Richard.
No,
Do we pick
no, we are spending
a
so
coded
much,
message possibly
I think
from
we are
this?
spending so much time on this matter just for nothing. The president is healthy, as far as I'm concerned. The president took the retreat to go and make the momentous changes without interference. He didn't want people eavesdropping on his list. He's going to come up with these momentous changes. The MK movement is going to get stronger out of these changes. He's going to be consolidating for 2026. He has been in the field, remember, and he has picked the issues, some of them that he might have been missing. And I tell you, just wait.
So this acting president thing should not.
No, there's no acting president.
There's no acting president.
There's nothing like an acting president. He is president. He just asked somebody to represent him. Somebody went appropriately dressed in a gomesi. Absolutely no threat. Why wouldn't the man have sound sleep? Honestly, without the delegation sitting there waiting for him. I mean, for me, this is just...
Okay.
The president is absolutely healthy, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Richard, again, just one comment, because we are running out of time. We need to move on to the next hour. The interns, the medical interns, this issue has been here for a very long time. And the PS of the Ministry of Health made a statement that somehow rubbed a section of Ugandans the wrong way when she guided that those interns who can pay for their placement, they can do it, and then that's against the norm we have stood with for quite a long time. I don't know if you can quickly make a comment on that and move on.
The PS for Ministry of Health has residual power to make decisions on this matter. This is a budget matter. The budget is made by President Yoweri Museveni. The others have residual matter. I don't remember if anyone of you knows how much money we need for medical interns, but that money, we actually give it out in sacks usually as donations. If you look, I don't know if you have looked at the budget for the presidential donation.
This year it's 187 billion.
So for me, the budget for interns is not the issue.
But why has it persisted?
For me, what I
The
think,
issue of interns.
for me, what I think is that it's actually, it borders on being a crime against humanity to refuse to pay, because the health sector in this country
Is struggling.
survives on interns and senior health officers. Those are the anchors, those are the pillars of the health sector in this country. In fact, the consultants whom they pay, I don't know, also little comparatively, but 17, I think, million or 18, they do telemedicine. They are supervising these senior house officers and whatever, and the person calls and says the patient is like this. He says, okay, do that and do
Yes,
that.
and they do all the donkey work.
For me, to play with their lives and therefore the lives of Ugandans
They've been running
borders on a crime
battles with
against
police even
humanity.
this week on
That's
streets.
for me how serious it is. But I look at it in this context, that there are two fields which are in crisis in this country and have been persistently in crisis. It's the health sector and the education sector. So we are talking about the education of health workers. If you see, you need to see the nexus.
Yeah.
That the education sector you provide an amount of money that cannot educate a child, and you say that's the EUP grant, and you tell the parents they must not contribute. So you are, and the reflection is in many things. But I have told you, Apollo, the pain I feel when 1 million children enter school and less than 100,000 get out at the end of the pine. Where are the hundreds of thousands going anyway every year also in this country? So you are murdering the whole population. It's education side. It's a mental side that you are creating. And then now, the little in health, the education of the health workers, you are also creating the education side in that sector. So what do you want? As a leader, really, what do you want?
Well, viewers, we'll take a break from here, and of course when we return, we'll be interrogating these and other issues, because if we are saying we are promoting sciences and we have interns who have trained to a level, they can do all the work in the hospital.
They're doctors.
And we are actually, I mean, police is fighting with them on streets, throwing them on pickups, and where will the kids get motivation to join this profession if we cannot handle this issue? And I'm lucky Richard talked about education and health being in crisis. Really, are these the sectors we should be playing with? We'll go for a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at the State of the Nation address, the hits and misses in that address. A very, very important day. Did we really get the priorities out on that particular day or not? Let's go for a break. We'll return after a short while. Welcome from the break. This is The Dialogue. My name is Prince Apollo, and in the studios, Dr. Gerard Wanzara, researcher from Africa Leadership Institute, is in the studios. Richard Baguma, a communication expert, is with us in the studios, but we also have Becca Baterule, a senior journalist working with the Uganda Radio Network, putting into perspective the big events which made this week. And of course, before we went for a break, we're looking at that unending saga involving interns, pre-interns, who this week we are told if they can afford to pay for their placement, which has been all over the years has been a mandate of government to place these interns and actually pay them while they are doing this work. And it did not go down well with a big section of the public, because even the leader of opposition issued a statement saying that this move is not only illegal, but it's also discriminatory. And that is the same statement, almost the same statement that came in from the Uganda Medical Association, that body that brings together those practitioners in the medical field. Becca Bate, can you make a quick remark about this particular issue, and possibly tell us if you think this will ever end?
Thank you. I have a profound belief in I have strong sentiments on this issue, and they come right from the university level. Let me say this: people who in Uganda can afford, let's look at those who have done medicine. Those people who have done medicine in Uganda and are paid, government of Uganda is sponsoring them to do medicine in its universities, in Makerere, Gulu, Mbarara, even in Bositem. Those students, most of the times, are students who get that through what we call national merit. National merit, many of the students, like even more than 90% of students who are admitted for government sponsorship on national merit, go to schools in Kampala, in Wakiso, in Mukono, and in other districts from the top schools in those particular districts. Those students, let's take an example. You saw a list the other day of let's use this intake. Kitende and Budo had 220 something students for government sponsorship, national merit at Makerere University. Kitende, a term pays close to 3 million a term. Budo pays the same money. SMAC pays the same money, almost 4 million a term. So it means if you are paying 3 million a term in school fees, that is 9 million a year. I was a student at Makerere University, and I am still a student there.
Without all the other costs.
Without the other costs, just school fees. Now, and those are the people who get to be admitted on national merit.
Yeah.
So those are the students who get to be admitted to be given to do medicine at Mlago and all these other universities. People who have come from, because it is close to impossible for a student. Bagmo, where do you come from? Where is your district?
It's a city, actually.
It's city. Maybe you can have some. It is hard to have a kid from Isingiro. I was going to mention Isingiro. Or Ibanda. On national merit, from Ibanda secondary school, on national merit to get 18 points in PCB. That is
so almost impossible.
It is impossible for you to come from Ibanda secondary school, or whatever, put the name you want, or from in Rampala, deep in Rampala, and you get to be admitted on government on merit to do medicine at Makerere or any other university. Number 2. And therefore, those who get to be government students who do medicine are actually students who come from very good school where they have been paying close to 10 million as school fees. Makerere, where I have been, I was looking at a course the other day, and engineering. A privately supported student is paying 2 million. That private is supposed to, when you add the functional fees, it arrives to about 3 million with all the functional fees a semester. We have 3 semesters, 2 semesters, that is 6 million. But this kid has been paying 9 million in a secondary school, and you see universities for 3 years or 4 or 5 years, but she has been paying 9 million for the last 6 years. That's when she was in secondary school. That parent can afford. But there are the people who get to admit at on national merit. Now let's take it a little bit further. Those who go and do, who don't get the required points, who don't get the points that are required to be government students, who get 10, 7 points, 9, 11, those ones are admitted as private students in Makerere and other universities. Yes. Now, when you go to a university like UCU, those students are paying close to 12 million a year in school fees.
What is your point?
No, the point I'm making, a student who has been paying 12 million a year for the last 5 years, obviously can afford to rent for himself a house to go and do intern, because you see the people who designed this education for medical doctors or what have you,
so you're saying
designed it in such a way that it has 5 years, one of which you will do intern with government. You get, like the person who designed, if you want to become an advocate in Uganda, you do 4 years in a university, you do 1 year at LDC for you to qualify to become an advocate in our courts. And the government of Uganda doesn't pay these lawyers. Actually, if anything, lawyers pay almost 10 million for them to do that 1 year at LDC. Now, I think government miscalculated in allowing these students.
Allowing these government-sponsored students.
Not only government-sponsored. You've been paying yourself in UCU, paying 10 million. Why would the government of Uganda? Because it is part of your education. Number 2. But that is, I would make that argument even when we have a sane government. But number 2, we understand that the state in Uganda, the government in Uganda we are having now, is not a government that has the interests of the people at heart. Having understood that, if and actually this is what I was calling for all along, I think there must be a window. We can address that as a policy issue, but there must be a window that those who are there who can pay for themselves can actually go and begin. Because you see, you will never become a doctor here when you don't have their certificate. Therefore, why would you sit at home and wait until the government of Uganda that doesn't care about you find the money? If they don't find it, you are going to spend 5 years. Now we have 2 years already at home. We are adding another 1 year.
You seem to support the position of the PS and the Ministry of Health.
I think it is
possibly those who can afford to pay for themselves, they should go on and take and apply for internship placement.
I support that reason for a different reason why the PS is supporting it. Mine, like we have had families that have been devastated by COVID, mother and father both die. Or when we had AIDS, when it had just come here, mother and father all die. When you go in Sierra Leone, they had Ebola, it would wipe out the entire family, mother and father. Those children actually survive. In Uganda, we lost both the mother and the father. So if we are beginning to cry until God, Jesus comes back, who is going to help? So we've been used to looking after ourselves. Please, you parent, please allow you look for that money like you've been doing.
So you would recommend a policy shift?
I would recommend a policy shift number 2 until that until that is done. Let's do what we have been been doing all along. Because I asked myself yesterday, I was somewhere and I asked somebody, what if I wake up and there is no government? What loss do I make? Because I see no government in my life. Everything I spend, it comes from my pocket.
It's as if you don't have a government.
The road is as bad as it can get. Everywhere it is yourself. Therefore, let's not behave like we are in where there is a government and which cares.
So
no, ours is doesn't care.
In turn is better
Please
find a way
look for the means and get there and get the certificate and then begin a life. Otherwise, when you wait on this government, please, you will be here for 5 years. That is not a priority now.
Okay. Dr. Jared Wanzara.
Yeah, I'm going to spend a very short time on this matter. Bate has drawn a red line. Well, but I will try to have a middle.
The interns should know that they don't have a government.
No, for me, I believe we have a government because where there's no government like Somalia, we know what happens. But I would like to make to interrogate this matter from 3 ways. One. Every ministry in this country has a monitoring and evaluation unit. I don't know whether a directorate or something like that. So why can't we come up and we say, when we had only Makerere, we were producing 80 to 100 doctors every year. And with that, government was able to pay everything for those intern doctors. Later on, we opened in Mbarara. Now, eventually, with the liberalization of the education sector, we have so many universities churning out doctors. Now, when you get 2 principal passes, you can go and do medicine in a university here. And then also we understand that every year, since we liberalized, we need the Ministry of Health to come in an organized way and say, now with the liberalization, we have thousands like this, 5,000 or 3,000 every year. And therefore, it is becoming a burden on the government. Like Bate said, there are those who go to private universities and are paying for themselves every month. There's nothing wrong with the government in a phased manner coming up with a policy and say, in 3 years, we are going to sponsor only government, those who are on government sponsorship, when they are doing internship, because the burden is big. Now, this number that went on private, we request that the policy will be that this 1 year you pay your own rent, you also pay your own feeding, because you are still you're still training. You need that certificate, and the manner in which we communicate, it should be a well thought out thing. A policy is released, passed by Parliament, and then implemented without this confusion. The fact is, we have a crisis. Now, if we are piling these people, and then the other that we really we need to take note of, we have spokespersons in the Ministry of Health paid by the government.
Several of them.
I wouldn't really agree that a permanent secretary should throw statements on Twitter, and then when we scroll through our phones, we find explosive statements that can even cause genocide. Yeah, true. I've seen people now turning around Dr. Diana Atwine's statement very negatively to incite anger in the population. So I think we need to know how to communicate. Let's depend on statistics. If it's a policy, let's be open and transparent and pass it and change. We need to solve these problems. Let's not act like fire brigade. waiting for fire.
I think there are very many avenues. It can go through Parliament, they debate it, they come up with
Absolutely.
resolutions. The resolutions either go to Cabinet
As a new police on...
or the organs, and then it comes out as a...
And if you go that ministry, you'll find, I don't know, working committee on this, working committee on this. Are we solving these problems?
The issue of interns has taken very, very long.
But you see, Apollo, first, I insist that there is enough money now.
Even when the
Now.
Ministry of Finance
Now there is enough
are
money.
saying they don't
Yes,
have
that's
that
why
money.
I said if you have a donation budget of 187 billion, and we need how much? 30
So
billion.
what are we-
You
what are
need
we-
30 billion for the intern?
What are we doing?
I don't know.
What are we
Donate
up
to them. You make a donation. Okay, if you don't want to pass it
But
through
this is a
finance.
recurrent expenditure.
Yeah, and then think through the policy positions. You see, when they were taking away boom and allowances from market, again we went through strikes, but it was streamlined. You know right from the beginning that you see there are people who, for example, have sponsorships, and the sponsorship you get given for 4 years because that is what the institution has told you. You expect that, so it means you are going to study and get. We have the scholarships board. I think it's called the scholarships board. Why don't we have? Now we are promoting science. I don't know what. Why don't you have special consideration? There are not too many. The ones who will fall in the public universities category, the ones you called merit, and cannot pay for that 1 year, let them have special consideration for that 1 year on the scholarships board. And but let it be a well thought out. You see, for me, it's this. It's coming and the IGG tells me you are stealing 10 trillion.
Yeah.
That 10 trillion you are stealing it, you are rooting, you are hemorrhaging. And then you say I cannot find 30 billion.
Yeah, it's around 30 billion.
To
I
train
think,
our doctors.
every year.
To train our doctors who are the pillars. Who are the pillars of the health sector.
System.
It is, you know, so for me that's the pain.
But what does that mean if we are looking at this crucial population and yet we say we are promoting sciences, we are serious about this and that, and we keep sending police to arrest them, throw them in cells, and what message?
No, you see, for me,
does really come out of this?
I think I told you it borders first, I think, on a crime against the Ugandans. But I think, too, I started looking at Baker and thinking, is it an orphanage? Maybe this orphanage...
Maybe he has a point. Yeah,
he has a point.
Yeah, because, you wonder what will happen when this doctor or health practitioner now is in charge of your health after going through this hell, and you find him in Mulago or any other health facility. I imagine what
you see,
what
the
will
people
happen.
who are armed,
yeah,
they express themselves.
They have been
with the arms.
sprayed with tear gas.
This.
They have spent nights in cells, and then we will later find them in health facilities taking care of our lives.
No, but you'll be finished.
But just a moment, just a minute. I think for me, I really don't want to privilege one group against the other. Because the police of Uganda has tear gas MPs, has tear gas journalists, has tear gas the political activists, everybody who says anything. So really they are not special. Like they tear gas us and the following day we are writing stories. We have never had, viewers have never woken up and there is a blackout on the television. We continue from where we're working. But number two,
but the damage
I think
the damage is
that is what you get when you are in a country like this one. These are the characteristics of a country like ours. Really, if you want a country where your head is really working properly, you are not traumatized in any way, please migrate to another one, not this one. But I want to say the thing, there is a facade that the so-called promotion of science. It is a facade.
It's a facade.
It's really a facade. It is nothing. I have an engineer in my house who is my wife. She graduated until this day. We have never had anyone inviting us that these are the jobs that are available for scientists. She went through all the trouble of doing this science, spending 4 years at Makerere. You see, and she's not alone because she has classmates who are equally grasping like everybody else. I have doctors. I have a doctor who heads an hospital in Kampala here. Every single day, on any given day he has not more than 100 applications of doctors on his table. So even this assumption that you see science is the way to go, really it's just it's just conversation for years of people like us who feed on information, but nothing more than that.
Thank you, Bate, and I will give you another 3 minutes, and you talk about a video, because you've talked about human rights, and something came up in my mind, and I thought we should make a comment about it. Is it Sheikh Amil Kamoga? Did all of us watch that video as police raided a place? Is it in Kawempe?
Kawempe, yes.
Yes. What do you make of, if the producers can retrieve that video, if they can, in these 6 minutes, when security raided Kamoga, Sheikh Amil Kamoga's place there in Kawempe, and it is said it is a rehabilitation center, and if you see how security agents really were handling citizens of this country, but I watched that video. A friend of mine make them crawl on their stomachs, on their bellies,
who is close to
kicking them
to Kamoga sent me that video.
Cameras were rolling.
A friend of mine sent me, who is close to Muhammad Kamoga Yunus, sent me that video, and I was annoyed because the previous day I had read a story in the New Vision saying 34 rescued from Kamoga's home. Rescued. So I was complaining, I was to myself, so how can a newspaper say rescued? Then the following day I looked at a video of the so-called people who had been rescued, and I was like, how do you reconcile the two? That you go and raid somebody's home, and by the way, I know
he said it's not a home.
It's a rehabilitation near to his home, and which is registered. For information, it is registered, and it is people know all the files of the people there are actually with the area LC, even with police. But a parent who disagreed, the conversation I got is that a parent the mother separated with the father, and the children remained with the father. So the father took, the boy was unruly, so they took him there, and the mother went to get the child from there, and then he went to security and claimed they are radicalizing the place. And police did not even, they know where Kamoga sits, they didn't even call him, they didn't even do anything. And the following day we had the Nanga say, these people are radicalizing people, they are training them in this. Enanga has already declared them guilty before even a court of law charges them. You see, we have a history in Uganda. In the last 10 years, we have never had a conviction based on these things. But the police will always come and align people. And the journalists are also garib. They say these are the terrorists we have captured. And in the last 10 years, we have not convicted anybody on anything called terrorism. But you see, every day you hear the police, even in the very week before I say this, the very week Enanga was saying, now we are going to be capturing videos where, because people are telling lies about the police, that they are torturing people. But now, everybody, the entire country saw what happened. So I think we have to do better. We have to do better than we are doing. We have to accord people the same respect that because when you are in uniform, it doesn't take you above the law. No, it doesn't. Okay, I suppose, but maybe they are above the law. I was being unrealistic. But the person who actually is radicalizing people, it is the security forces. Because after subjecting somebody to that torture, what do you expect them to do? There is a sheikh called Chirevo.
Look, that's the video. I hope our producers have. They jumped over the fence and raided the compound, the residences. They are armed, and what comes next is really.
And one of them in civilian clothing.
Come again?
Many of those armed in civilian clothing.
Yes, but I saw others who are uniformed.
Yeah, but many of them in civilian clothes, you see. How do you?
There is a next.
How do you know? No, but of those, when they come, how do you know?
How do you know it's security?
What identifies?
You see, they are breaking. Now this is, look at that. Look. And there, look at the kick. Really? Security.
Because he's not even resisting.
No.
You see?
3 people.
You see?
No, not only 3. There were more.
You see? He's resigned. They are all submissive.
So why do you?
They are all submissive.
And you see the other small one. And he's small.
They are being
He comes
kicked.
out with the hands up.
The head kick.
You see?
Yeah, they're hitting the head. And you say these ones will not be radical. How can they not be? How can this boy not be radical? I want to tell me. I was telling guys, I don't know if you remember what I was telling you, Apollo.
Look at the man is
I
calling on his
said the
belly.
day I chose,
But they are being
the day we
kicked.
decided that we should go to the bush with my colleagues in Intari, was when a soldier like that met us with my friends, looked at my colleague and said, that watch you are putting on, he young.
So,
and took it by
so
force.
Bate is right to say that it is security now radicalizing
But what?
the citizens.
There's no question about that.
You remember a case where
Thank you so much.
you remember a case,
Planisas.
just a moment, just a minute. You remember a case where they killed, assassinated the Sheikh Telev. They went to his house, they knocked, the wife opened, they got him, handcuffed him, took him out, shot him dead when the children were hearing. That was not the only case. Before Lokech died, he said he was on TV just stamping after they killed 4 people. We wrote a story at Uganda Radio Network. We visited the places where these people were killed. The witnesses told us that those guys were brought on handcuffs, on the hands and on the legs. And then after, whatever they retrieved, they shot them dead. Some of them, they were shot dead in front of their children. Now tell me, when you read Museveni's books, even Investigate tells you the reason he went to the bush was because after he was being arrested and arrested and taken to
given a child.
Yes, just Chiboko, they ended up in the bush. So Enanga, the only person who is radicalizing the people of Uganda is actually your security. Not what is being taught there, because this thing, you know it is illegal, it is registered. So all these actions are the people who are sending. Someone was saying that there is a lot of bad things being said on social media. How do you want people to respond to you really when that is how you are treating them?
Thank you so much, viewers. This is the dialogue, and we really do condemn such acts, inhumane acts. You can send us your comments, observations on the topics discussed in the studios using our WhatsApp line 0701 609906 as usual. You can send WhatsApp messages, send messages via the usual platform, short messaging platform. Tell us what you think about these issues we are discussing.
Somebody quarreled with me the other day. He said, now we send our messages, you don't even read 5.
Okay, we will read them
I
now.
said, I hadn't paid attention to
Yeah,
that.
it is prudent that they send in messages early, because when you send them in the last 5-10 minutes, we can't read them. Please join the discussion in the studios. Dr. Jared Were Wanzala, we had the State of the Nation address, very elaborate, and the president this time round managed to stand even with COVID-19, as he said. He stood for almost 2.5 hours, read out an enriched statement, talking about the economy, talking about the health sector, the education, and very many sectors. And one highlight I can only pick is when he emphasizes that the tourism sector can be actually used to rejuvenate and improve our economy. And you know, over time, the tourism sector has been allocated a very small budget, very meager budget. Well, there are many things in that State of the Nation address we cannot explore each and everything. But from your perspective, what do you think stood out in that State of the Nation address?
First, I commend him that this time around he did not use at times he he has such platform and uses very vulgar language on Ugandans, fools what. And I saw him actually praising Uganda, saying the economy has been powered by, of course, the resources we have, including the vibrant human resources. Okay, of course, this was far from when he went to South Africa and was saying that Ugandans are very lazy. So I commend him for that. Of course, he talked about the economy growing. You know, we came from COVID. So last year we had just opened, and this is the second year since we opened. So believe it or not, there has been some growth in some sectors of the economy, like I was telling you about milk. 193% growth. He was telling you about a reduction in inflation in some areas. Of course, food inflation is still very high. I don't know whether, but I know it is being caused by shortages internally, and then we depend on so many imports right now. Let me tell the policymakers that this bragging we are saying there is food. Food production is actually declining in this country. And it is visible when you go to the villages and you find people in the shops every day buying kaunga and buying rice. So it is something we need to think. But inflation, say on fuel, it has gone a bit down, though I believe it should be going down further given the global oil prices. And then the issue of poverty and the economy growing and people becoming rich. I saw him congratulating Ugandans that congratulations, you have now become, richer. In reality,
isn't it in the previous State of the Nation address when he congratulated Ugandans for entering the lower middle income?
I'm a researcher and I strongly dispute the figures of Uganda entering the middle income, because statistics here are shared. You have government working with the World Bank, with the IMF, they all analyze.
Income per capita is what, 1,046?
Exactly. Actually, what he was projecting that by the end of this financial year, we would be about 1,000. It was way above.
Yeah, 50. 1,050.
Yeah. US dollars. But when I look at the statistics of other bodies, bilateral bodies that we are working with, the World Bank that are disputing, we are still below 1,000 US dollars.
Really?
GDP per capita. So maybe government needs to harmonize statistics. Who are we going to believe and who we are not going to believe? But the fact is that absolute poverty, if you look at individual level, if you leave percentages, there's still a problem. And you'll go in the countryside, cases of domestic violence are really on a high because of poverty. Men coming home without anything in the pocket. And then, that frustration. If you go to Karamoja, where women-led households are 65%, in Karamoja, men don't look after households. It is the women who are doing it. The poverty is very high. So if you go and look at from food security, there's what they call multidimensional poverty. You look at access to health, to food, security. Like security, many people are killed every day by iron bar hitmen. Those have no access. That's a form of poverty. People who sleep hungry. So we needed to properly, have these statistics.
Generally,
here and there.
People had high expectations in that State of the Nation address. Can you say that the president addressed many of those expectations from the public?
Yeah, he attempted, because what people should know that a State of the Nation address is a kind of accountability for the last year.
Yeah.
We gave you money, okay, and then you have to come after 1 year and you tell us what did you achieve with the money that we gave you.
Did he do it?
So he attempted.
Okay.
We may not be contented in some aspects. Like if he talks about tourism, it is true since COVID went down and we opened the economy, tourism has been going up and there's potential. But the things that we are not addressing, some of them are within the means of the government. For instance, tourism depends on good roads. When they come and they're having fun around Kampala, they are moving in the potholes. You see, if we are talking about tourism, we depend on security. Once a minister is killed, the next day, a blogger is killed. The next day, people are killed at a supermarket. Where a security guard has killed someone at a supermarket entry? So where will the tourists get courage to come? Because they shop there.
Okay.
That is it. Then the other is that we have kept looking at tourism from a traditional aspect of game parks. Why can't we think of maybe natural sciences museum? People look at that. People look at cultural tourism. People look at different aspects of history, So those are, even some of these things like our Heroes Day, these are in some countries, such days attract tourists because of the uniqueness. So it stops being a Luero kind of,
Okay. On the side of governance and accountability, do you think he addressed those issues adequately?
Based on his statements on accountability, governance, he's very good at speaking about it, but the concrete actions are missing. For instance, he's still warning. He told again the PDM thieves. He said, I'm coming. Where I've not been, I'm coming. But sometimes I think these people sit down and begin laughing because when he leaves, they are doing exactly the same or the worst. So there is a challenge. And then lastly, what actually made me laugh, almost break my ribs, is when he was concluding on the issue of the homosexuality law. I think he was at pains trying to explain which kind of law he really signed. And I was quite disturbed when I saw him saying, we did not, for these ones who are practicing it because they are psychologically disoriented. I said these ones, we can leave them to do it. And so that the explanation he gave showed me that he's under a lot of pressure. And actually, the issue of now bringing private members' bills. This particular bill of Asuman Basalirwa was rushed through Parliament, and I believe the President was not ready for that law to be tabled at that time. But since it had already sailed and it had the support from both sides, bipartisan support, so he jumped on it. But I think he remained with, so if that passes, and I leave these guys, next time you'll see other bills being brought, and maybe he will lose control. So that bill has impacted on how Parliament is going to behave in this coming year, controlling private members' bills.
Richard, can you make your contribution on the issue of the State of the Nation address, please?
No. First of all, Apollo, I must confess that I did not listen to the President speaking on the State of the Nation address. I no longer really feel that I should have to sit down for hours and listen. I think that there will be probably 80% or so of the statements will be repeated statements, which he has said elsewhere, and which will come in the budget anyway. But like I already say, even the budget is a set of intentions which right from the beginning, they know they are going to violate. We are going to change the intentions are not going to be worked on as intended. We are going to change, we are going to have supplementaries, we are going to go and change the figures within. The monies, we are not going to collect them as we promise. So for me, and then the other things that I raise here are usually the same 6.5, I don't know, 5.6 GDP,
economic growth,
which for me don't reflect on the ground. So I didn't really sit down to listen. But there are some people in office in the boardroom. So whenever I would go to ask them for something, I would pick snippets. And then I read the statement. But what I did, I read the statement. You see, usually my experience with the President is that I would always listen to what he's not saying. That's what I would try to listen to. What is he not saying? So for instance, I can't understand, I try to understand why we keep debating PDM the way it is presented. What is different from between PDM and Emioga and Ntandikwa and Bonabagagaware and OWC and what is the difference? Because what happens is the president will dispense some cash to some people, particularly the people who, because the ones who take charge. If you find an NUP red district and local council structures, it will be NUP people who will get. Some people will come together to form a group, as you say, form a group, and they share the money and go away. And we know as we go towards 2026, the money will increase. 2023 will be a little, 2024, 2025. And it's a 2026 project. It's just putting some cash that will help campaigns. Okay. So I don't know why we even focus on these things with so much energy as if they are going to make a difference. The only difference they make is that people get some cash from government and that's it. But to say that, you see, we are going to arrest you. But anyway, that's a talk we have had. So that's one. The second thing for me, I think the most important statements that came of the State of the Nation address was that I have COVID. I think that was the most important statement that came from the State of the Nation address, that the president announced that he had COVID. He was suspected and is going to isolate. But the rest of the things, for me, I had no expectations. And people have to tell me, so what was different? I keep listening to all these analysts. By the way, I've been listening to people on the radio, there's analysts, economists. I'm like, okay, let people say what was different this time. Okay. I haven't had, maybe my ears are sick or my head is wrong. What I think is that there will be money given to people as we go closer to 2026. And it will be electioneering related money. So you can call it PDM or Bonabagagaware or Emioga or Ventandukwa or Women's, I don't know what, you can call it any name. But that's what it's going to be.
Okay, Benjamin Tumwine from Bundubujo, he suggests that government should patrol. Okay, he's on this issue of security, though the last statement is not very clear. But thank you so much, Benjamin Tumwine. He's saying thanks for the program, and he says he's happy to see you, Baguma, back. And another one here. Good morning, Apollo. Thanks for the show. According to me, this wasn't a State of the Nation address. It was actually a state of President Museveni's mind. If that was a CEO of a company giving accountability to board of governors, then I would have fired him at the end of his speech. You can't come and start reading roads by roads, clinic by clinic. No, just tell us how we have spent the money we gave you and tell us the losses or profits other than giving us the state of your mind. I am Joel in Chirinya Bukasa. He says it is the
He's
state
very consistent
of the president's mind, not the state. Joel, thank you so much. And of course, PDM is for bosses, not for poor people. How many people are being arrested for that money? But of course, PDM was meant to benefit those who are outside the money economy, who are not bosses in any way. I'm trying to get these messages out of the way before we continue. Okay. Professor, good morning. My professor. Nze Magaya Andrew gamba nti ali Busoga. What is okay? Ekamuli Busoga. Please, I am UPC man. I'm requesting you. Okay, Professor. That is my prayer. Thank you so much. I've picked your observation. Thank you so much, our viewers. We are winding up, though I still have Beka Bate to make his contribution. I'll read other messages as they come in these 10 minutes we still have. Beka.
The State of the Nation, actually, if you've been around, if you read that of 2015 or 2014, you don't have to read the one of 2023, because they are technically the same. He's saying the same things, but he doesn't do anything. I ask myself, where do they put the money that every year they appropriate? Because nothing changes. For us who move around this country, nothing changes, if anything.
Do you really, I mean, yes, you hear, I mean, you sound as if you are I mean, you share the same sentiments with the opposition who boycotted this event.
No, it is not simply to boycott, I mean to share their sentiments. We live in this country. We are not like Museveni, who is, when he's moving on the road, all of us are off the road. For us, we live in these populations. We know what is happening with the people. We know, we speak for ourselves. Because the Baganda say, when you are selling meat of the head, you first feel your own head and you see what you are selling. So we feel, we live this, we live the experiences. Let me say this. First of all, those that are not regurgitated are others which are practically, I mean, that are factually not correct. When Museveni last year declared that we had become middle income, I said, right away I objected. I said it is not true. And I went and did some little work, just little work. Let me give you some of those few things. First, we had what we call the Development Plan 2. It was 2015, 2020. There we had projected that we would become middle income, lower middle income. Lower middle income is $1,040 between 2015 2020, the National Development Plan 2. We failed. We ended at 880 in 2020. Now, there we didn't have COVID. The economy was working properly.
Hit.
Now we had COVID in 2020. The economy that they say was growing at 7% was growing at 3%. But the population during COVID didn't stop growing. If anything, actually, it must have increased. Our population grows at 3%, 3.1, 3.2%. Now, if your economy is growing at 3% and your population is growing at 3%, it means you're having zero growth. That's what it means in simple economics. So it means from 2020 to 2022, when the president declared that we are middle income, the economy was not growing at all, it was growing at 0%. Now, if you had 5 years of uninterrupted growth of 7% and you failed to become middle income, how do you become middle income when your economy is growing at 0%? Because they tell us it was growing at 3%, but the population was also growing at 3%. So it tells you that the economy didn't grow at all. Now, so I said we are not middle income. Number two, I was speaking for myself. In 2022, when the president was declaring us middle income, I couldn't afford fuel. I was speaking for myself.
The prices were still high.
I couldn't afford fuel because the prices of fuel were about to 6,000. You get? I couldn't afford to have two meals. He's telling me, but before 2020, I could afford those. So I use myself. I used not to get calls from the village to provide for them. Now, I would not pick their phones because every day they're on my phone trying to call me to send them something. So if you tell me it has grown that now people are earning $1,040, where is the growth he's talking about? So practically it is impossible.
So you think the statistics are wrong? The statistics being read by the formulated by the technocrats, read by politicians are wrong.
You know, he was even yesterday when the president was speaking, he was saying, but this is not true. I think we have grown more than this. You saw? He was saying that.
Usually does that.
Now, if he's also the president is disputing what he's reading, for him he thinks it is higher. If he's also disputing the very things he's reading, why wouldn't I dispute? Because I am living the experience. I am telling you, but a Ugandan now, Apple, a Ugandan now is worse off than he was 30 years ago. You see, people who are interested in peasant studies, a peasant, one of the characteristics of a peasant is that he has to have land. Now they don't even have the land. Therefore, they live in the market and they don't have the money to be able for them to live in the market. So, a Ugandan then 30 years ago would afford to have supper and lunch. Of course, never mind that he would have cassava without sauce, but the cassava would be there. Would have would have rumonde without sauce. Of course, we would have no sugar, but the food was there. Now,
which is not the case today.
The case today is that you cannot even afford the food. You look at when we were in COVID, how many Ugandans were classified as poor, who needed Nabaja support? The vulnerable. And not only in Kampala, elsewhere, everywhere. So it means those Ugandans live hands to mouth. Those are not the people you can describe that they earn 3 million. So it is simply just...
Generally, did the State of the Nation address the expectations or concerns of the population?
No, I think for me, I want to advise the president one thing. He spent 2 hours.
Even
and
if
40
it is regurgitated and out as you claim, did it somehow address the concerns of the
No, you know, I was saying he spent 2 hours and 40 minutes, almost 3 hours, reading 49 pages. The Kabaka of Buganda, for all I have known him in my adult life, he has never had a speech of more than 5 minutes. So it is 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And the people, every word he says, people are clapping. I think the president will help himself by, spending a lot of time in these speeches because they mean nothing to us, not even to those ones who are seated there because they are already sleeping. You find them with chewing gum. Even if his own people who he pays are struggling to keep their eyes open when he's reading. What about Ugandans?
It is your opinion, and thank you so much. But we must conclude this show, and we can do it in just 4 minutes, less than 4 minutes actually. Dr. Gerard Wansala, have your 1.5 minutes and conclude the remarks.
His Excellency made something that touched me when he said, and I think it relates to what he's saying. He said, I don't want this Ministry of Finance things, these plans, 24 Vision 2040. Me, I'm not with you in this 2040, 24 Vision 2040. I want to see things now. He's very right, because if you are 78 years old and you really want to see a transformed Uganda and the documents are saying Vision 2040, you will be over 100 years and maybe not on earth. Therefore, Mr. President, it shows that you really need to be either radical or to ensure that you see transformation in this country. Otherwise, there are people who are not mindful of time. They will steal whatever you bring because they don't care. Whether it's Vision 2060, Agenda 2063 of the African Union, they don't care.
Okay. But Richard Baguma, I have a feeling the president, if he really wants to come back and contest in 2026, he must want something to cling on, and I hope for these are PDM and what else he's doing. But listen to what the colleagues like Bata are saying, that he's not, creating impact in the population as far as, improving the welfare of people, delivering on the promises and pledges. What can you predict now?
First of all, I don't want to miss this. My colleague Ronald Kayanja, he's a director at the UN in New York. He's in Canada right now. He said he's watching.
Wow.
And he has sent message. Say, please send my message of quick recovery to my president. So
He's
from Ronald Kayanja.
Ronald Kayanja.
Yeah. And thank you for following. Now, there is an English phrase that was appropriated by the yellow people. That phrase is called "no change." I think it is a consistent practice in the state of the nation.
There is no change.
Yeah. So for me, there is no change. You see, there is another word that came up. It's a Luganda word. I don't know how to translate it in the other languages. It is called twebereremu.
Oh.
In Runyankore, for me, I usually say
everyone for himself.
Twefeho. Yes. So this, for me, the state of things is twebereremu, twefeho, wifeho, and all the other translations. And if we can internalize that, then Beka Bate, and I am going to have, and I'm going to have a coffee with Beka Bate privately. I want to indict him in this kwefaho.
Okay.
Yeah. And Apollo. Between me and you, there is a road now in Isinjiro, the Tamaka Road. I come from Isinjiro originally because of my father. We used to take 5-6 hours to go to Ruborogota, my grandfather's place. The first time I rode on that road, I was very shocked when I reached Chikagati because I was still waiting.
Yeah, it is 2 hours now.
There are some things that are happening that we can utilize to better ourselves, even when we are in a slippery
Twefeho. Beka Bate, just parting shot.
I think for me, I follow a lot. Sometimes they normally come. They pop up on my phone. The president's son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba. And every tweet he brings out, it tells you how his father has been a spectacular failure. Because he laments like all of us are lamenting, and you actually don't have to look anywhere. Because anyway, some people say you don't like the government, but you see,
I wonder if those you call lamentations are real.
No, it doesn't matter. We can discuss whether they are real or not. But I mean, whether he says them with the same reason I am saying them, but doesn't matter. Bottom line, he's saying the same things. Every day, he's lamenting about the thieves in his father's government. He's lamenting about the poor health. He's lamenting about the poor roads. He's lamenting about the poor. You can go on and on and on and on.
That they are what?
So it tells you that actually he sums up. If you want to understand how the state of the nation is, just go on the president. And he's lived in his house he's been in state house for a long time. So actually, if you want to sum up the entire state of the nation, please go and visit the Twitter page of Muhoozi Kainerugaba. You will not have any question on the state of the nation.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much for your time. And I must thank the panel, Dr. Jeddah Wanzara. Thank you so much. Richard Baguma Tinkasimiri, it's always a pleasure, and we're happy you're back. But really, it's a pleasure having you on this panel today, and we hope to see you next time. Viewers, thank you so much for your comments and contribution. You can follow up this particular program. It will be uploaded on our social media sites. Good afternoon. I wish you a splendid week ahead. From me, Prince Apollo, and the production, we say good day and